Well, thanks again. Thanks for the opportunity to introduce myself and the discipline manager. I hope my intent is that I'll help other traders overcome the same struggles that I have. I'd love to say I had, but I still have. So without further ado, what I like to do with the summary is explain, what is and do you even need a discipline manager while trading, and show you how to establish your rules within the settings inside of discipline manager, and give or show you some examples of what'll happen when your limits are breached, and how to download the discipline manager, and just have a special offer for today. And then depending on time, a couple Q&As, question and answers. If you have any questions, you can just throw them in as I talk about the topic, and I'll try to come back to it. I'll have to look at, I typically don't look at the questions now, so just go ahead and throw them in there if there are any. So first of all, who am I? My name is Stephen Trevor. Steve typically is what I go by, and I was in the fire service for a total of 40 years, starting as a cadet. I retired in 2019. I started learning, playing around with the markets, years ago, and I failed out of options and failed out of forex and all that stuff, just impatience and whatnot. But anyway, somehow I got introduced to futures, and kind of found that to be my home. I like it. It's a little easier for me and my style. Everybody has their own style, and I still, the big thing that I still struggle with, and I always have struggled with, was the psychological side of the emotions when you're actually in the trade. And when you're finally in the trade and it's going up and you see your money being made, and if you tighten up your stops, and you end up getting popped out just for it to go where you wanted it to go, and all that emotional business. So I still have issues, but that's actually how the discipline manager came to be. I'm like, there's got to be a way to kind of police me, if you will. And I know in the big firms that they have, people, managers that tap you on the shoulder and saying, hey, you're having a bad day, why don't you go take off the rest of the day, or whatever they do there. That's the market and the pit. That's me when I took a tour there with one of the prop firms. I never worked there, but I wish I had, but I enjoyed my fire service life too. So I guess it's my second life. Anyway, governmental required disclaimers. I know they talked about at the beginning. I'll just plot them up here for a second. Obviously, trading is risky, and you can pause that and read that. I don't need to go through it. The discipline manager actually stops you from trading. So in any event, you really don't need to see that, but I'll show it here anyway. So 90% of traders fail. And I looked at these statistics. You can look them up yourself, and it's like, why is that? And a lot of the thing has to do, most of the things have to do with the psychology part of it. If anybody's gone through what's his name? Comes Mark Douglas. He's got some books out there and some great things that helped out. There's other things out there, but moral of the story, it's all about money, because people are, they have the hope and the greed, the fear. What's the old saying? Pigs make money, hogs get slaughtered. So that kind of business. And mine is waiting, or lacking of discipline, and that's where I kind of have struggled with my issues. These statistics are not mine, based on experience. I'm just a trader like anybody else. Ever since I started discipline manager, Ninja brought me on as a vendor, and but I'm just a trader. I have a company which is an LLC, Tremper.com, but it's just me, and maybe a little bit of my daughter. But you could just pull up these stats yourself right on Google. There's nothing that I'm just making up my own here, but the moral of the story is, why did they fail? And it's the the failure to limit the losses. My problem was over trading, especially when I first started getting into it. I always felt like I had to be in the market. So I was just, if it can't go up, it's got to go down. So you go down. If it can't go down, you go up. And it was crazy, the amount of numbers that the brokers loved me. I think I probably their best customer. But fear of missing out, that's the thing too, is that if you don't get in, oh my gosh, it's going to go without me, and I know it. And so you get in, and of course it goes down, and then you get popped out, or you just have to take a lot of heat. and then it goes ultimately in your direction after it pops you out, or you just say uncle and can't do it again. So it's all about waiting. We're not traders, we're waiters, and it's just so aggravating, the fact that you have to sit there and wait for it. And that's my struggle, and that's one of my things I got to deal with. And that's where the discipline manager kind of comes to be, because if I overdo it, I know that it's going to smack me out, and of course I don't want that. And it's also good, the fact that once I do hit certain levels, my rules are in place to let me go a little bit, but be on the cautious side. So my worst four-letter word is wait. I haven't stressed it enough. You have to master the ability to wait, and you need your self-control on your trades, and that's what we get paid to do. If you wait and you finally get what you wanted to get, then you get paid for it. And so that's the name of the game. That's my struggle. And if anybody has any suggestions for me, I'm more than welcome to take those. And that's me sitting in front of a computer, especially, with that's why I like NASDAQ, because as I mentioned, I was in the fire service, so maybe I'm a little bit of a, adrenaline junkie. And NASDAQ is it's like ADD on steroids. And so I like that action. And when it's slow, you have to wait for it to get into the right spot, and that just drives me nuts. So anyway, this psychology and the discipline, the psychology and discipline are the rules. You have to deal with the losses, getting out too quickly, holding positions too long, skipping trades due to fear of loss, over trading. The discipline, actually somebody told me this, and I wrote it down because I liked it. The discipline manager cannot help you with your psychology, but it will help you with your discipline. And that then leads to a healthier psychology. And that's really true. And that's why I kind of like that phrase there. It was good. You've got to learn how to control your losses. Whatever your average winning day is, you don't want to lose more than that on a bad day. You've heard the old adage, surrender to the fight, but not the battle. Everybody has a different account size. So using 1% loss limit on a 5% account is not the same as $5,000 account when you're trading micro. So you have to kind of look at what you're dealing with and how much you can handle, and then go from there. And especially with these prop firms and trailing stops and all that, you really have to watch that a lot. Number one rule for Warren Buffett says never lose money. Rule number two, don't ever forget rule number one, and that's so true. And of the four choices, you've got the big win, you've got the small win, you've got the small losses, and you got the big losses. And eliminating these big losses will help and result in your psychology being much more at ease. Get rid of the big ones. The little small ones are fine. We can overcome those. No big deal. The broker likes those, but that's all right. So to stop losses and ATMs, nobody knows as far as I'm concerned, nobody really knows the risk reward. I've seen it blow through areas that you think it would stop, and it just blows right through them. It all depends on how many people are in the market, and if somebody steps in and say, buy a lot. So, but really nobody knows what they are. You're already, know what your risk is, because it's based on your account size and how much you can risk on a trade, depending on where you get in, based on your parameters. But what's the reward? If you're taking profits, is it really going to stop right there? I've seen it blow through those many times. And so it's kind of a hard, but it's a question that it's all about probabilities, and what's good for you. Everybody has different, if you're swing trading versus day trading, do day trading, so don't have time, especially if it gets later on, you're running out of time, so you get the time working against you. And the risk side of the trade is the only thing that you really can't imagine. As I mentioned, don't move your stops. You can adjust them obviously here and there, but just keep moving them back and back and back and back is not a good rule to live by. Don't get caught up on the revenge trading either. I've been there too. So that's how this all started, because I've been there. All the indicators that I've made for myself. So, and you never want to give up though. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've just gotten so frustrated and say, I just can't do this. This is nuts. But then I get back and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it is. You can. You got the chart. I look at my chart and I'm like, well, this is fun getting into it. And then, oh, this is kind of hard. And well, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just, get it. I just don't get it, whatever. And then you're like, well, you just kind of get in it, you do it again, and then finally you win some trades, and the market has a way of saying, hey, come on in, come on in. You get in there, and it smacks you back down again, and it's this emotional roller coaster. So eventually, if you finally master it and you finally have a nice P&L where you feel comfortable with it, whatever that's different for everybody else, but once you start feeling that you're starting to get some of these trades and passing on ones you don't like, you start to get it, you feel that's where the psychology then kind of comes in, and you feel it more at ease, and that's what it is. But getting there is half the battle. So you need to protect yourself from you with your personal, trading manager. So you got to think of it as you're the CEO of your business, and you are. I mean, if people always talk about your trading business, it is a business. You are your boss, and so you are the CEO. You need to delegate the rules to the discipline manager. So whatever you as the CEO determines how much you're willing to give up or how much you want to do, how much you want to trade, etc., you allow it to monitor your trading employees. Well, your trading employees happens to be you too, just have a different hat on. So on the weekend or at night, whatever the case is, you put these rules together, and now the manager and the employee then goes out and trades during the course of the day. And if your trading employee gets out of line, meaning you get out of line during the course of the day, the manager is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, let's stop for the day and, count our blessings. And then at the next CEO meeting with yourself, then you can reevaluate. Maybe your settings are a little too tight or too, whatever you can do, you can tweak them. But you do it after, after the market and on the weekend when you could, have some time to think about it. You never really want to kind of play around with it then you start getting into the revenge trade. So that's why you deal with it at a later date. You make your notes, what you need to do, and then you do it after the market, setting your money management rules. The discipline manager is allowed to, allow you to set your own hard daily stops and weekly stops along with your goals. How much money are you willing to take, and then how much are you willing to give back if you do get that. And if your hard drawdown limits are hit, then you're done for the day or the week. Mainly it's the day, but there's settings there for the week if it accumulates. But moral of the story, it's the day. Just be done for the day. And once your daily goals are hit, then you can continue to trade, but you never want to give back more than, you don't want to give it all back. So you don't want to give back more than whatever your amount may be. Some people I do know that don't have any. When they hit their goal, it won't let them trade again. It's just zero, nothing, I'm done. And so you could set that appropriately. I've seen, 50% back, 95%, basically playing with house money, that kind of thing. So there's all kinds of things out there. Warning boxes are displayed when the thresholds are breached, if you have your warnings on there. And as far as the reset, there was much discussion regarding creating a reset button. So you're in the middle of the day and you're having a bad day and it pops you out and says you're done for the day. Well, you just hit a reset button and says, okay, thanks a lot, but get out of my way. Well, that's kind of defeats the purpose. But at the end of our meeting, we realized that, you are still the owner of your business, the CEO, and you can fire the manager anytime you want. You can fire the employees, whatever you want to do, you are the boss. So we don't want to stop you from managing your own business. On the other hand, we don't have to make it that easy too. So that said, if you opt to reset it, the discipline manager, the window, Windows, you'll navigate you to it, and you can, it'll ask you the question to press the reset button, and then you got to shut down, and there's a little bit more to it, but you shut down, and you got to go back and reestablish accounts. And so it can be done, but doing it in the heat of the day, by the time you get ready and back online, your emotions are probably over anyway. So in essence, it's kind of taken care of itself. So here's some of the settings that you have. I just took a picture of it. It's a little easier. So this right here, this little arrow caret down here that allows you to do a drop down, so you can pick the account of choice. So people that are doing the trade copiers, you'd have to set your rules for each one, or at minimum, the leader account would be go right there. So but they might be different though. You might have one account, or maybe your leader account if you're trading a copier or not, whatever. But your leader account may be in minis, but then your other accounts might be converted to micros. And so obviously you have to have different numbers for those different sizes. But let's say your warning comes in at 350 bucks, and I just made these numbers up. So let's say you lose 350 bucks, it's going to give you a 15-minute timeout. The warning comes in and says, hey, look, you've breached your $350, and so therefore you have it's like a circuit breaker in the market. And so you take 15 minutes, go walk around the block, go grab some cup of coffee, some water, whatever the case may be, and you can come back and continue to trade. Now, if you go down to $500 in these particular settings, you're done for the day. That's it. And your daily goal then is just that too. So let's say $500 is your goal. And then what happens after you've done that? What do you want to do after that? And so it's called the dynamic drawdown, because the drawdown chucks away the higher you go. So let's say you want to have a warning at 30%. So if you give up 30% of the 500, once these rules kick in, then you're going to be able to give back 30% of it. And if you give back 50% of that, so if you breach 250 bucks, then you're done for the day and you'll get the halt. And the same scenario goes with the weeklies, same theory. Now you could include, this was added in a later version as far as unrealized orders or realized. I think the default is realized, but you can do that based on your desire and your prop firm or your broker, whatever the case may be. You could do it that way. You have to make sure it's big enough to manage that. And then if you're trading multiple contracts, what happens if you get out on your first contract and you've breached your goal? What do you want to do with that remaining contract that's still open? And by default, it's going to be close it. So you're done. You know that first contract. Now, it could be that second contract actually wins and it gets you above your breaking threshold, and then you will just continue on like you never did. But on the other hand, if you let it go, then and it goes against you, then you could even be out more than what you originally intended to do. The stats show, the P&Ls of where you're at, and your peaks and your weekly peaks and all that business. And then there's that reset button we talked about. So if you hit reset on that, then you've got to, you got to close down and other things like that. So this is not an indicator. This does not get placed in a chart or anything like that. You can have it open. I mean, there's no problem having it open if you want to see, stats or something like that. But it runs in the background in a separate window, and it doesn't need to be open. And so when you close Ninja and come right back into it again, it'll just be there in the background. It'll just be running. Assuming you actually applied your settings. Obviously, if you didn't apply your settings, before you apply your settings, it's going to say apply, and once you apply your settings, it's going to say reset. So it goes back and forth. So let's assume as I mentioned, you have a $500, or what in this case, you've got a 350 drawdown warning, and then you've got a halt of 500. And again, once you breach that, your circuit breaker will kick in and give you a 15-minute mindset. And there's a warning. We can't get rid of the error. It's really a warning box, but it comes up as an error, but it's not an error. But anyway, it just shows you that the warning's been hit on such and such a time and date. It'll mark it, and it gives you a 15-minute timeout to go, chill out. A mindset, if you will. After your 15-minute timeout, you come back, and you're allowed to continue to trade until you hit that drawdown halt. And then you're breached. And if you breach that, then you're done. And at that point, you're not going to be allowed to trade. Now, you can try trading it again, but it'll just instantly, within a millisecond, take it right back off again. And if you think you're faster than it is and you put on a market order just to get in right away, you'll get in, you'll get your commissions, and then a millisecond later, it'll take it right off and you'll get more commissions. So you do that once or twice, and then you realize, okay, that's not going to work. So, and there's the halt if you get hit too many times and it's like, okay, I'm done, I'm breached, that's it, no more. Now let's talk about the better side of things. Let's talk about the goal. So now that you've hit your goal, and you get the pop-up that says, congratulations, you've hit your daily goal. So your drawdown limits, what we applied for before, those are now in effect. And you can just close this off and put it away. And so now you hit your goal and you can continue, but you can only give back the percentage of what your earnings are. And that grows as your P&L goes up, that crawls along, because we're dealing with percentages, not a set amount. So that's why we go with that. We don't want to say you hit your goal of $500, now you got 250. Well, no. What happens if you get your next trade and now you're up to 700? Well, you don't want to give back 250. You only want to give back 30%. So that's how that kind of works. And it's, now some people have, options, as I mentioned earlier. You could do 0 and say it'll instantly halt you and you're done once you hit your goal, and that's totally fine too. You've made your money, go away, go play golf. Or you could do, you can give 100% of your goal and just play with house money minus maybe some commissions and whatnot. But I've seen a whole slew of different percentages, and that's just something that you, as the CEO of your company, have to decide, what you want to do. And as discussed earlier, the dynamic drawdown rules also incorporate the circuit breaker timeout, and they stop for the 15 minutes. After your timeout, you can continue to trade. I think I've gone through that. The dynamic drawdowns are just that we talked about. So here's some examples. Say you realize $1,000, so your warning will pop in at 700, and then your halt will stop you at 50%, and then you're done. So after your 15-minute timeout, and then you go down to 500, then in this case you'd be done, and that would be the end of it. Now let's say you get up to the 1500, your next drawdown, because there's 2 levels, so you go ahead and you make that. Now you're all up to 1500, and you have another level. You could see how it just continually grows up with you. And there's the I'd use 999 if you don't want it. Some people actually have a little trick that somebody showed me, that they don't want the warning. And so if you just put 999 on there, you're never going to get your warning hit. So like right here. So if I get to $1,500, just don't give me a warning. I don't want to have to deal with that. So that's certainly your prerogative. And there's your 2 levels. You really want to change levels when you want to change your percentage. So if you're at 50%, or in this case, you're halting at 75%. Well, it's only when you don't want to give back 75% do you want to change. If you made it all the way up to, for you 2,000, now you're at 3,000, at 4,000, do you really want to give back 75% of that kind of money? So that's where your level 2 will kick in, and you'll say, you drop that down to maybe only a smaller manageable portion of whatever that might be. And if you're dealing with micros, you just got to put the numbers appropriately and counted for that. You've got your weekly levels in here, and then existing positions, I think I talked about before. And what else? And then here's the bottom half of the settings table. They talk about your peaks and things like that. And then this right here, if you could click that, and it'll save a default. So once you get your numbers in there, you don't have to set all those numbers for each account. You can just save it as default, and then but you do have to apply them for each account. So if you are playing with multiple accounts, you do have to go to each account and then set it and apply it to that account so it's independent. If you don't do that, then you rely solely on the leader account, which is fine. If it does what it's supposed to do, and the leader account has the discipline manager on the leader account, and everything's working perfectly, then yes, that leader account will, the followers will follow it, and they'll be out also. So that's kind of up to you if you need to have it on each account or not. But so there's all the settings in a nutshell. You just come down here, and it's just one long list, and there you go. And then there's the apply, as I mentioned earlier, and the drawback. Now, one of our main obstacles in the discipline manager is you can't suppress market orders. We tried doing that, and there's an open ticket on that, but for right now, market orders can't be suppressed within the Ninja platform. So trying to get that done. So right now, if you think you're going to be able to just throw a market order on it, as I mentioned, you'll be able to do that, and it'll put a market order on, but it will take it right off again a millisecond later, and then you'll just be stuck with some commissions and possible slippage. So if you're running a bot, that is, some bots do market orders, and so if you're running a bot and you've breached your goal, and then your strategy comes along and says, hey, there's a setup, and it puts on an order without you turning your strategy off, then it'll take it out, and it'll turn it off, and that'll be the end of that. So this is the order that we have, or the ticket number, I should say, we have. It's called suppressing manual orders. It's been in there for about 5 years, and there's no status on it. So unless everybody starts bombarding them and saying, what's the status on that, I don't really think too much is going to happen with it. So how do I get started? Currently, we have a subscription. We do all the subscriptions. I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands of dollars I've spent, and it's just so much easier with subscriptions. Is keep them at a low price, and then that way, if you're not happy, easy peasy, just go in there and turn it off. And a lot of people actually have come in and they've done it for a few months. They get a taste of it, it's fine, and they cancel it. Great. 6 months later, they come back. You don't need to have this for the rest of your life. I mean, it's not intended for that unless you're running bots. I do have a firm that's running bots, and they, you know, kind of have it for a police, if you will, as a backup, which is fine for middle of the night and whatnot. But in my kind of trading and where I'm reaching out is you really don't need to have it constantly unless you want to. So when the time comes where you feel that you've, you know, kind of got it under control, you just turn it off. No big deal. There is a free trial that is available. So once you downloaded it, you just it's the full version. You just go ahead and do it. And once that trial version is over, then it is going to require your third-party machine ID to go ahead and continue on that if you want to continue. You have monthly and annual options, and PayPal makes it very easy to manage your subscriptions by going into their platform and turning them on and turning them off. So the way to do that would be go to the webpage, trumper.com, and you can go to algos and indicators, and kind of move this around a little bit, but yeah, it's the Discipline Manager is right there. You can click on this one. These are all other ones that I've made. I've made all these for me. So if anybody wants them, I kind of put them on the page since I have it available, but they were designed for me. And this was not my first one. Actually, reversal bars was my first one for NinjaTrader 7, which is even listed here for 7. But this one was, I think, my second or third, and this is the one that kind of hit home to a lot of people. So apparently I'm not alone in this world when it comes to discipline. So anyway, you can click on that one. It takes you to the next page, and then you can read pretty much all about that. And right there is there's a download file, and this is an older page, so things might have changed a little bit. But anyway, there's a download file that gives you the trial, and you put it in with, you know, you go to Control Center and Tools and import Ninja script, and it'll say, do you want to? Do you trust the person? And then you do it, and then you have to reshut Ninja down and then relaunch it because it does, you know, go in the background as I mentioned. And then you can go turn on your rules and start setting them up, playing around with it. So what we have today is, on behalf of Traders Corner and the ability to reach out to you, we've put I say we because it's basically me, 30% off on a limited time only. And this is part of the webinar of the discipline that can be downloaded using the discount button on the trumper.com discount code page. I have a page dedicated strictly for discount codes, which have changed quite often, and I put it, that's kind of makes sense to put it there. So I put it down at the bottom of that one, and it's got a 30% off button. So if you went to the button on the main page of Discipline Manager, then you'll be able to do the same thing. The only problem is, or difference is that button is going to have the regular rate with PayPal. It'll go right to PayPal at the regular rate, whereas this button that I'm going to show you where to go to in a super secret place, it'll give you a better button, which will give you a discount. Now the thing with the trial though, the discount code button is going to last 5 days, whereas the trial period is going to last longer than that. So the code button will instigate or start it right away. So if you wait until the full trial is over and then you go to the button will be gone. So you have to kind of decide what you want to do and then go for it. Now under referrals or discount codes, I have a link up there now that just specifically says discount codes, and you go there, and then when you get into there, it will down at the bottom. Now, these are the ones that are, you can tell they're old, 2023 or whatever. So I change these all the time. You got to update your page, or I mean, just go in there, if you want to get on the list to get an email, I can send you emails, but needless to say is you can go in there and see who's current because I change it regularly. But down here is a button there for the 30% off, and that's the one you want to kind of use. And then that button is going to take you to the PayPal, which you're probably familiar with, and then you go from there. There is a annual, and then there's the 30% off renewal. So that I like to keep it, as I say, I like to keep it a little, I don't want to say cheap, but I mean, I just have a problem with the amounts of money that a lot of these are, and I just don't feel that, you know, when you're in the business, especially starting out and you got some issues, it's like, hey, you know, you just use this and tell 2 friends and they'll tell 2 friends and so on and so on. So once you do decide to continue on, we are going to need to go into the contact page, because in there's going to be the contact form, and in there it's going to say your third-party ID. And there's a little 1-minute video if you want to know how to get that, but you would use your third-party ID, and then that I would need to then continue it forth and go from there. So how do you get a hold of us? Obviously Tremper.com if you haven't figured that one out, but you can go to the contact page. Skype, oh, I got to change that because Skype's no longer, so that's can come out. But info@Tremper.com, or the phone number you can call. If people call anymore, I guess nobody talks to anybody, but if you do want to call, you can call and I'll talk to you. So other than that, that's all I've got. So that is how you can get a hold. Oh, this is a 2020, the COVID chart. So if anybody, Anthony, if you're there, I didn't look at the panel. I got to look at chats. If anybody's in there, I can never tell on go to webinar where those chats are. But I don't know if anybody has any questions or not, but I'll be more than well. I try to speed this up a little bit only because I wanted to stay on track, and which I've done a pretty darn good job, if I must say. So other than that, that's all I have. Let me check. Anthony, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for keeping us on track. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I sped it up a little bit. Do you have anything in chat though, real quick, or no?
I don't see anything in chat.
Okay, I must have done a good job. All right, well, that's all I got then. I wanted to keep this on time, and that's one thing good about being in the fire service. We get adjust for every situation.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I was thinking about that too. Like traders in general, like we are always like putting out fires in a sense, but like we have to act in emergency type situations though.
Well, there are, and I could tell you, there's been times I've been in a trade and the internet goes out. You talk about a pucker factor. You know, you're like, oh boy. It's like I have the phone number to Ninja because I have my accounts with Ninja, so I have my phone number, or their phone number, their hotline right in there, so I could pick up my phone and, you know, and get to them instantly and say just flatten my account or whatever once you find your account. So there's things like that I would recommend, you know, putting in your phone just to have it available. Then there's also one for, you know, if you got to talk to your prop firm, and some have them, I guess, and some don't, but there might be hot numbers for those, or apps now. There's another one, but there should always be a backup, because in this world, you've got your computer, you've got the internet, you've got the broker, you've got whatever's in the middle, the phone company, then you've got, then it has to come back to you, and so there's always something that can go wrong. And it's happened before where it just stopped, just Ninja just crashed. All of a sudden I'm in a trade, or get in a trade, or maybe move a stop or something like that, and then it's gone. And yeah, not good.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steven, for those reminders. Really important. I appreciate it.
Sure thing.
Yep. Thank you, Steven, for that reminder of how trading success isn't just strategy, it's psychology and process. So check the chat for Steven's link to explore the Discipline Manager. And let's continue. Coming up